Most of you have heard of the Malice at the Palace.
November 19th, 2004. Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons, a game between bitter rivals and title contenders that descended into a violent brawl.
One which spilled into the stands, injuring several fans.
The invisible divide between player and spectators was forever shattered.
The relationship between the two altered permanently.
But what you don't know is that it was planned.
That's right. One of the most horrifying nights in sports history was planned in a conspiracy between the NBA and the United States government.
To distract us from something even bigger that had occurred weeks prior.
We uncovered this conspiracy. It's all true. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, we spoke with Chief Conspiracy Officer at the FBI, Richard Espionage, about this.
Yup, they're right.
We don't have time to get into any of that government corruption crap. We have bigger fish to fry.
That's right. That part of the story is nothing compared to the magnitude of what the government was covering up. Something so destructive that it not only obliterated one of America's most industrious cities, it completely erased it from history.
It was very similar to the Malice at the Palace. The teams involved? All of them. All 4 major sports.
4 Malices at the Palaces.
Yeah, 4 Malices at the Palaces. All in the same city, all on one night. But not just any night.
Halloween night. Our story takes place in 2004, but to get there, we have to go back 200 years to tell the story of how a metropolis grew in the Allegheny Mountains before vanishing from the map and then cultural memory entirely.
Goondor, Pennsylvania first began as a haven for immigrants from Luxembourg in the mid-1800s.
These wait, what are they called?
Luxembourgers.
Shut up.
Swear to God, yeah.
Wow. Luxembourgers quickly realized they had settled on a gold mine, or should we say a coal mine.
Overnight, Goondor turned from immigrant settlement to boomtown. Its population size grew from 4,000 to 104,000 by the end of the century.
The Luxembourgers, it just doesn't sound right. It sounds like a burger that costs $30 at the airport.
The Luxembourgers were an industrious and profitable people, but they had very little cultural exports to speak of.
In short, they were really fucking stupid.
But they loved sports.
By the latter half of the 20th century, Goondor's history and its identity were tied up in its professional sports teams. Goondor had a team for every sport, and most of them were really successful.
Goondor didn't have much history to speak of outside of business, so the names of their professional teams changed a lot through the years. The only one that didn't was their baseball team, the Goondor Guys.
Goondor claimed the word guy. They insisted that the term guy came from a Luxembourgish dialect term for coal miner. We found nothing in the history books to back this up.
It's much more likely that they couldn't think of anything in 1915, and this was what they picked. They quickly came up with their coal miner myth, and their fans would fight you if you disagreed.
The basketball team was originally the Fleeps. This had been their name since the 1960s, and we're pretty sure that it's a made-up word that the first owner said when they asked him what the team name would be, and he panicked.
He looked around the room and he saw a fly on the windowsill and a Jeep in the parking lot. And there you go.
Their first mascot was a Jeep with wings and a proboscis and 1,000 eyes, and it scared the fuck out of kids.
Their next mascot was a man in a suit named Hydrated Henry, whose job was to remind fans to stay hydrated.
For years, the city of Goondor wanted a new team name for the basketball team, something that had guaranteed recognition. Luckily for them, shortly before the events of 2004, the Montreal Expos disbanded, and the Fleeps pounced on that name. So, they became the Goondor Montreal Expos.
They were kicking themselves once they realized the Expos didn't have a built-in mascot either. So in 2004, it's still Hydrated Henry.
With football being the most popular sport in Goondor, the powers that be tried for the first time to use their creative powers to name their NFL team.
It resulted in a long stream of, unfortunate names.
The first name harkened back to the Luxembourgers' tradition of sculpting fountains.
The name Goondor Squirters lasted 2 years.
Then someone mentioned Goondor was once a massive rail hub, connecting people in the Northeast with the rest of the Midwest. And many workers were hired to run goods from one train to another.
So they were the Goondor Train Runners. The advent of rap music was a disaster.
Frustrated, the city decided that they would use a term that was completely unique to Goondor, a term that never made it outside of the city, therefore would never become a sexual term.
In the early days of Goondor, the first trading posts were occupied by trappers that sold pelts to high society types in New York.
It was said that after a long day of trading, the trappers would come home so covered in fur that it would get into their food,
resulting in the birth of the Goondor Fur Burgers.
In 2004, they're named after the people who lived in the neighborhood on the hillside of Mount Blump. Long live the Goondor Blump Kings.
As for the hockey team's name, it was, well, somehow stupider.
As the commissioner of the National Hockey League, I am proud to announce to the people of Goondor the name of their new hockey team. With me to unveil the winner is majority owner Rick Buslane.
As all teams are named now for some reason, we elected to honor the results of a fan vote. We love our Goondor fans. With nearly 100% citywide turnout, I'm happy to reveal the top 4. In 4th place, the Goondor Guys 2. A nod to our baseball heritage there. In 3rd place, the Goondor February 3rds. The date the contest took place. Looks like some people misread the form. In 2nd place, the Goondor Cold. See, I like that one. It is mighty cold here. Ice hockey as well. Okay, good. Trending up. And our winner, boy, I really like cold.
And remember, folks, this was decided in 2004, right after a Wednesday night. And on Wednesday nights in 2004 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 90% of America, the Goondor Jack Bowers. It comes as no surprise that a city full of stupid people really fucked with 24.
Come on, 24 was awesome.
Well, there you go.
The Goondor Jack Bowers will be the first site of fighting on the night of Halloween, so that is where we will start our story.
And it's Sunday night NHL action here on NBC as the league's newest team, the Goondor Jack Bowers, take on the Northwest Territory Foie Gras.
The Foie Gras. You might be thinking, that's a weird name.
Self-consciously fancy, yet tacky and also really out of place.
Guess who came up with it?
It was right after the towers fell and drugs weren't really hitting the same way, so I went back to the basics. I was just getting drunk as shit. You know how sometimes when you black out, you wake up and you're like, whoa, why did I buy 2 water bottles off of Amazon? That's what happened to me, but with a professional hockey team.
It's a fascinating showdown between the league's newest teams. The Goondor Jack Bowers are a welcome addition for a sports-crazy town, and their fans are up for it. A packed and frankly inebriated crowd are here tonight.
But what about their opponents? They hail from the remote city of Yellowknife, the capital of the mostly uninhabitable frozen tundra Northwest Territory.
They're one of the last Canadian provinces to get a professional hockey team, and we thought for good reason. It's a 12-hour flight to Pennsylvania for this team, but they're here. And here with us is one of their ownership partners, famous musician Money McDonald's.
Feliz Halloween, everybody!
Money, we have several obvious questions. What prompted you to bring a hockey team to the Northwest Territory?
Truthfully, I was tripped up by the name, baby. I initially thought I was making a team in the North and West Territories of America. I thought, jackpot. That's Seattle, Las Vegas, Montana. But the Northwest Territories are very different. There's 40,000 people tops, and the land is bigger than France and Spain combined. But I was blinded by my newfound love of hockey.
You're a big hockey guy now?
Absolutely. I'm a puck slut.
Money, do you know what that phrase means?
I have since learned what it means, and I stand by it.
The puck has been dropped and we are off. There is excitement in the air. The fans are excited not only for their teams, but to also catch a glimpse of Swiss rookie Rudolf Rinders.
I've never seen anything like this kid, Jim. He can do it all. And he came out of nowhere, too. Like he was made in a lab or something.
The atmosphere is intense in the President Palmer Arena. 2 expansion teams drawing a ton of attention, and the visit of a massively hyped rookie who many thought could be an all-time great.
But this was far from the most intense sporting event in Goondor that night. The Goondor Blump Kings were playing the disgusting Pittsburgh Steelers, their most hated rival. but really, anyone's most hated rival. A team whose downfall all good Christians pray for. Like if anyone on the Steelers gets injured, I'm jazzed. I jump in the air and click my feet together like Charlie fucking Chaplin. You don't like it when the opposing team's players get injured? Get out of my fucking foxhole, geek. Fuck you.
Oh, and there's the small matter of the baseball team, the Goondor Guys. They were in the NLCS Game 6 against the Des Moines Lotioneers. Winner goes to the World Series.
However, across town, the city's basketball team, the Goondor Montreal Expos, had a much harder time getting people in the door. It was week 2 of what was absolutely going to be a third losing season in a row.
They were going to be easily the 4th highest attended event of the night, 5th if you count the Sting concert.
But on that night, they just so happened to do a particularly fateful promotion.
We talked to then head of marketing for the Montreal Expos, Ryan Loch Ness.
There was a famous saying in Goondor, which was, "We don't like basketball." We had to make sure we were constantly doing multiple themes and promotions every night. Like that night was Halloween, but that wasn't enough, so we decided to make it IPA night as well.
2004, that was before IPAs really took off, right?
Oh yeah, it was a big swing, so we were selling them for 2 cents.
What?
2-cent IPA night?
In retrospect, it sounds crazy, but we had other stuff to worry about. Like the fact that it was also night.
Hi, I'm Keanu Steve, star player for the Goondor Montreal Expos.
And I'm Sir Tim McSullet of the Knights of Rodanthe Renaissance Fair.
The Knights of Rodanthe and the Goondor Montreal Expos are teaming up for Night.
Come be a knight at Night. The first 20,000 fans receive a free Morning Star.
And the first 19,500 fans get a full suit of chainmail armor.
So come to Onion Rings Arena this Sunday and help us vanquish the villainous Los Angeles dime pieces.
Ryan, 2 questions. 1, why was it called the Onion Rings Arena?
'Cause I like them and want to promote them.
Asked and answered. Question 2, more of a comment. You gave every fan a free mace.
Yeah, it ended up not factoring into sales at all. We sold out way faster than usual because of who we were playing.
The Goondor Montreal Expos were playing the Los Angeles Dime Pieces.
Kind of like the name for the Goondor football team, the dime pieces were named a long time ago and derived their name from a historical industry. Dime pieces were the slang for small amounts of silver that were found in the San Gabriel Mountains in the early years of Southern California immigration.
And a few decades later, in a complete coincidence, that term was invented to refer to babes.
But also, in a sort of nominative determinism way, the 2004 LA dime pieces were staffed entirely by just absolute tens.
The players were hot and their front office was... What's the most politically correct way to put this?
MILF City.
Yeah, it was MILF City.
And the team had fully leaned into the hot thing. In 1998, they had a chance to draft Dirk Nowitzki, but they passed because he wasn't enough of a twink.
Additionally, hot people from around the country began to identify their hotness with being a fan of the dime pieces. So any dime pieces away game brought out a healthy percentage of the city's hottest people.
And following them came thousands of really horny guys. So this basketball game tips off at 7:07 p.m. in front of a few thousand really hot people and 15,000 horny-ass guys with medieval flails drinking 2-cent IPAs. What could go wrong?
Speaking of hot guys, 3 blocks away, a very famous one just threw out the first pitch.
Here to throw out the first pitch on this Halloween night is the star of 2004's runaway hit Van Helsing, Hugh Jackman, who is also dressed as Van Helsing because it's Halloween.
Again, you really had to spell things out for these people.
And I don't know how we did it, but we got Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, just fucking crazy. No idea how it happened. I DM'd him on Twitter and he responded immediately.
So here's the recorded in-person chat.
Yeah, he met us at Dunkin' Donuts.
Hello, boys.
Hey, man, what's up?
Thanks for meeting us. We loved you We kind of messed up here.
We wanted to flatter him and say we liked one of his movies, but it turns out Hugh Jackman hasn't been in like a single good movie.
Yeah, it shocked us too.
We thought we liked the guy. Like, we thought he was like a Brad Pitt or a Matt Damon, Lifetime of Bangers.
Seriously, let's run through his IMDb and try to find one good movie on this list.
2006, The Fountain. 2008, Australia. 2011, Real Steel.
2012, Les Mis. 2013, Movie 43. 15, Chappie and Pan.
He was a fucking Blackbeard in that.
Greatest Showman, X-Men Apocalypse, and Free Guy. Do not write in and tell me Logan was good. You know it was fake, deep superhero garbage. Oh, Logan made you cry? God help you.
And look, I thought I liked The Prestige, but mostly I just don't think I got it. And Nate's my best friend, and I tune out most of what he says, but some of the stuff gets through, and he convinced me not to like The Prestige anymore.
Next, vegetables.
Never. But anyway.
Yeah, I haven't really been in anything good. Don't give a fuck, though. They don't have a film critic at the Bugatti dealership. Damn, that's awesome.
What do you remember about the NLCS Game 6 in Goondor on Halloween?
Well, I threw the first pitch. We don't have baseball in Australia, but I've just always inherently known how to throw a circle changeup. 83 miles an hour. I made my assistant bring a speed gun. That pitch starts way up before it just dies. Catches the bottom of the zone outside corner. Who's hitting that? Again, incredibly sick. However, we're more interested in knowing about the cascading onslaught of violence later in the game. There was a huge security detail behind home plate because they said the people of Goondor act very strange on Halloween. I had a hard time telling people apart because a lot of the security guards were in costume as Frankenstein, a SpongeBob or whatever, and a lot of the fans were dressed as security guards. I remember in the second inning, a bunch of these security guards and a guy dressed as Spider-Man all tried to get me to sign various parts of their body. But most of them got run off or tased. I would have signed them, though. That's just the kind of sick guy I am.
The game got underway at 6:30, and it became apparent that we were looking at a pitcher's duel. Truly a masterclass on both sides. Goondor's Cuban ace Bufalo Winguez took a no-hitter into the 6th inning. And Des Moines' hometown hero Hut Doug was equally as good throwing a one-hitter.
But we'll come back to that. The violence is about to break out. First, over at President Palmer Arena. Take your time, boys. I'll clear my whole day for this. February 13th, 2022. Super Bowl 56 between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams.
A game marred by controversy.
But 200 feet above the game, a murder took place.
8 people trapped in a luxury box. The only way out? Solve the murder.
And we will bring you that story. Come see a closer look live.
One night only, this Sunday, November 3rd.
Oh, wait, the 3rd?
Yeah.
Oh boy, wait a second. This episode comes out on the 4th.
Shit, you're right. So this ad is pointless. Damn it. Okay, should we pivot to something else? Like, how much time do we have left in the ad?
Infinite. We can't bail on the ad until we do something good.
I got nothing. What if we did a new version of one of the old ads, like a follow-up for one of the old products?
No, man, all our ads are fake.
They are?
Yeah, the only real ad we've done is for my Uncle Jasmine.
And he's still stuck on the space station.
All right, let's come up with a product. What's around us? Table, no. Shoe. Okay, a shoe.
Love it. What's it do?
It protects the person wearing it. Yeah, it's alive and made out of, like, symbiotes.
That is the plot of The Shoe, our first episode of the season.
Fuck.
Oh, I got a bunch of cards from the other companies from that time we entered the America's Worst Business competition.
Perfect. Good. Free advertising for someone.
Okay, let's see. 5466-8723-1290-5564 Graham N. Fisher, Nefarious Designs, LLC.
That is all of the information on our company credit card. Stop saying...
Wait. There's more numbers. 09-27 SEC code. What the hell is that? SEC code 623.
Let's just take the L. No ad. Get back to the episode.
Here to sing the Canadian National Anthem is Emmy-nominated recording artist, Medal of Honor recipient, and Sports Illustrated Funkiest Man Alive, Money McDonald. Bon Jovi, everybody. Inagata-da-vida, honey. Don't you know that I'm loving you? Inagata-da-vida, baby. Soon as that national anthem started playing, I realized I had not a damn clue what I was singing, so I went with the first song that came to mind, Inagata Davida by Iron Butterfly. Unfortunately, that shit's 20 minutes, but I was pot committed. They cut my mic after 8. I was pretty embarrassed that all that happened in front of my very special guest that night, the Secretary of Agriculture.
You were friends with the Secretary of Agriculture?
Yeah, he was in town for the conference on fertilizers. Apparently this was a really innovative time for fertilizer, and he was regaling me about all the poops he had been sampling at the conference.
The hockey game started 15 minutes late at 7:25. But tempers quickly flared as a fight broke out on the ice between foie gras star Rudolph Rinders and the Jack Bauer's famous enforcer Luke Charizard. We tried to track Charizard down, but he would keep agreeing to meet with us, and then he would back out at the last second.
But we ended up making contact with the Jack Bauer's team mascot, who would end up playing a pivotal role in this violent affair, Daniel Newgirl.
It was my third week as a mascot. The costume was interesting. Have you guys seen the costume?
No.
Well, it's a standard humanoid mascot setup, kind of like the Michigan State Spartan or the Wake Forest Demon Deacon, but my face had a black eye and a bleeding cut on the forehead. Black t-shirt, black leather jacket, real leather, by the way, really expensive. Cargo pants and cargo boots. But the weirdest thing by far was that they gave me a real gun, 9mm Beretta. They said it was unloaded, but it was heavy as shit. I never had a reason to test it. Until that night.
The scuffle lasted only 30 seconds on the ice, but it inflamed the passions of the fans. Arguments broke out between Jack Bauer's fans and traveling foie gras supporters.
In this sellout crowd, almost exactly half of them were wearing the blue and white camouflage jerseys of the foie gras.
Looked exactly like the camo from Modern Warfare 2. So sick.
We need to remind you that there are only 40,000 people who live in the Northwest Territories, and it's an 11.5-hour flight to Pennsylvania from Yellowknife, or a 46-hour drive.
And a lot of these guys didn't exactly look like they were from the Northwest Territories. They were all tall, with long blonde hair, and pretty jacked.
At exactly 7:35, after the brawl on the ice had been settled, a fan threw his watch over the glass and at Rudolph Rinders.
It wasn't clear to us exactly who threw it, but Rudolph Rinders seemed to know because he quickly began to climb the glass to fight the person in the crowd.
A bunch of really stupid Jack Bauer's fans took this as an invitation to fight, and began brawling with the foie gras fans in that section.
Within 60 seconds, a group of fans in Section 106 had climbed up the glass and were punching at Rudolph Rinders and the other foie gras players who were struggling to climb up a wall of glass and ice skates, all in front of Daniel Newgirl.
I saw the whole thing go down, and it struck me as weird right off the bat. Because the guy who threw the watch was wearing a foie gras jersey. Why would he throw something at a star player? And it was also a really nice watch. I'm pretty sure it was a Rolex. Anyway, right after that, the guy who threw it punched the closest Jack Bauer's fan.
30 seconds after that, fans in Section 112 break a section of the glass and spill onto the ice.
"7:37 p.m., 3 blocks away at Onion Rings Arena."
That's the basketball one?
The first quarter had ended, but madness had been in the air since the very start.
At the end of the first quarter, the Montreal Expos retreated to their bench, while the dime pieces began to put on their traditional end-of-quarter fashion show for the crowd.
And the fellas were serving, big time.
As the dime pieces walked the runway in Versace and Dior, the Montreal Expos crowd was whipped into a frenzy.
A particularly horny group of women in the front row under the dime pieces basket got so horny that they broke through security and stormed the court.
They wrangled Tony Parker to the ground and started mercilessly dry humping him.
Security, led by Sir Mix-a-Lot, went to corral the feral women. But a group of men, or should we say white knights, ran onto the court armed with flails to protect the fair maidens from harm.
Unlike the fight at the hockey arena, this one turned deadly right away, as the horny guys armed with flails did battle with the security guards armed with, well, nothing.
For 45 seconds, armed horny guys held court as the players and coaches scattered. The security guards were relieved by Sir Mix-a-Lot and the Knights of Rodanthe, as the group of 20 armored knights mowed through the horny guys who had never used these weapons before.
Up in the luxury box, Ryan Lockness was contemplating the consequences of his actions.
I understood right away that I was probably going to be fired. Also, I was a little worried about dying. But if by some miracle I did survive, then losing my job would probably be commensurate.
But Ryan was going to have to weather a lot of violence if he wanted to survive.
"7:41 p.m. The baseball game at Rosa Park has been tense, but up until this point, non-violent.
That was about to change. It was the top of the sixth inning of a very fast-moving pitcher's duel. However, Bufalo Winguez had allowed 2 walks, and, knowing how good Des Moines' pitching was, any deficit was going to be nearly impossible to come back from.
I was hyper-focused on Bufalo Winguez and ESPing into him my incredible reserves of positive energy to make him pitch better. But I did notice a few rows back that some rowdy behavior was beginning to commence. I tend to have that effect on straight men.
I get it.
Yeah, my heart rate is jacked right now.
People have been trying all game, but my security had kept them at bay. When out of the corner of my eye, I saw the strangest thing.
And Winguez needs an out here. Wait a second. It seems that another man is trying to get behind home plate to visit the legend Van Helsing himself, Hugh Jackman. Oh my gosh, this man is dressed as Spider-Man, and he is climbing down the home plate netting. Winguez and the umpire haven't noticed, so Winguez will deliver. Popped it up straight back. Jansen is coming over with room. He should be able to catch this for a huge... Oh no, it's hit the Spider-Man on the netting. The Spider-Man has slid down and is now in the custody of authorities, but that would have ended the inning, and the Goondor guys are stunned.
The stadium erupted into a massive chorus of boos, except for some Des Moines fans who began chanting Spider-Man's name.
One thing about baseball is that whenever a cosmically unusual or unlucky thing happens, the result is always the same.
Winguez has got to shake this off. He delivers. He barrels that. That ball is getting out of here in a hurry. And the Des Moines fans clustered in left field aren't even trying to catch the ball. They have already started fighting with the Goondor fans. This place has seen a switch flip, and all bedlam has taken over.
The Goondor players begin to argue with the Des Moines players, who stream out of their dugout to meet their home run hero Jasper Juggle. Fans are throwing things out onto the field. They don't really care who they hit at this point.
This scene is devolving quickly, and the Spider-Man is back! He has apparently broken free of security and is making a run for it into the Lotioneers' empty dugout and down the tunnel. A posse of fans follow closely behind, but some of them have broken off and are now assaulting the Lotioneers. Now the chaos has spilled over onto the field. Oh my, what a travesty.
7:45 p.m. Over at the President Palmer Arena, someone else was about to hide in the locker room.
Luke Charizard, famous goon for the Jack Bowers, is confusing to us.
He was renowned on the ice for his ability and brutality as a fighter. There's dozens of compilations on YouTube that's just him beating the absolute shit out of people.
But from what we gathered from his actions during this event, he seems like kind of a pussy.
We had to jump through a million hoops to get him to agree to meet with us because he feared for his safety.
Eventually, we spoke to Luke Charizard over an encrypted phone call.
Hello?
Hey man, sorry to ask right off the bat, but are you scared right now?
I mean, of course I'm scared. The world is full of bad men who want to hurt me.
Luke, this seems to go against your reputation as a badass kind of guy.
It's easy to be a badass on the ice. You just grab a guy's jersey, he grabs yours, and you punch each other for 20 seconds. There's no risk. But the real world, it's all risk. It's also scary.
So at 7:45, a group of foie gras fans were chasing Luke in a circle around the ice. Mind you, he was on skates and they just had shoes on.
Those big blonde boys were relentless. I kept pleading with them to just let me curl into a ball behind the bench, but they wouldn't leave me alone. So I just booked it off the ice and ran towards the foie gras locker room where I saw something I shouldn't have seen.
What did you see, man? Did you just pee your pants?
Yes, and on purpose. Predators will often take pity on their prey if they're in a state of great distress.
I don't think that's true.
But on my way to the locker room, I passed the Zamboni stables, and I instinctively hid there for 10 minutes. Eventually, I saw a group of men standing around a Zamboni, and one of them was attaching a gray brick that was beeping to the bottom. Sometimes I emit a beep to let people know I mean no harm, but this was a scary beep.
That sounds like C4.
What are a bunch of hockey fans doing with military-grade explosives?
"7:50 p.m. The death toll at the basketball game at Onion Rings Arena had risen to dozens by this point. People were either hornily chasing each other or developed a manic bloodlust, or in a lot of cases, both.
The battery of MILFs that made up the Dime Pieces front office had seen this type of thing before. They knew they had to barricade themselves in a safe place and wait it out.
We spoke to Dime Pieces GM Jennifer Grievous, who led the defense of the club level.
You don't get to become general manager of an NBA team as a woman without slitting a few throats. I once punched Phil Jackson in the head so hard that he died for an hour.
Whoa.
The second the sideline reporter's head got caved in with a mace, I knew we were in for a long night. I immediately snapped into action.
Jennifer was standing courtside when the violence began.
I was down there putting belts to asses because no one on the team was wearing the contractually obligated amount of eyeliner. It's so hard to get these guys to put on the makeup, and not a single player in the NBA at the time could do it correctly. God, I wish I could have drafted Dwight Howard.
But soon, Jennifer, the Dime Pieces players, their coach, the Dime Pieces makeup squadron, and the super hot Amazonian guards they shared with Gaddafi were soon surrounded by hordes approaching from all sides.
As I looked, I saw Wally Zerbiak getting reverse bukkakied by ladies. It was like an Eiffel Tower, but they were ugly. Or as I call it, the Gherkin building.
Nice.
I thought to myself, this is awesome because I am so prepared. I took a class in B school on crisis response and I got a C. But the professor was like so strict that would have been an A anywhere else. The only person who ever got an A in that class was Ahmadinejad.
What did you learn in that class?
Layoffs. I got rid of some real fat. I always hated Jeff Van Gundy, so I fired him first. He was a DEI hire.
DEI?
We had to hire an ugly guy.
During the Dime Pieces layoffs, another 6 of their staff were killed as the hordes circled closer and closer, swinging their maces and swords and axes blindly.
With no other support coming from the Knights of Rodanthe, who were corralling surviving players and Montreal Expo's staff into the luxury area where Ryan Loch Ness was eating cheese, the Dime Pieces had mere seconds to escape or die.
At that moment, from a luxury box above the Dime Pieces section, hydrated Henry pours water coolers down onto the stairs below. The hordes begin to slip and fall over each other, impaling one another with their various medieval weapons.
Hydrated Henry yelled out to us how to get to the luxury section, and so 20 of us retreated up, fighting our way through the occasional disgusting Goondor fan. When we came out of the stairwells, someone almost killed our staff dietitian. She's a teenage girl that just tells our players not to eat. But I did the Brad Pitt thing from Troy, where he jumped up and got a sword into the guy's shoulder, like the gooey part in between the neck and the shoulder. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Our listeners won't.
But who cares? 7:54 p.m. Jack Bauer mascot Daniel Newgirl has been tailing the man he believes through the watch, through all the chaos at the hockey arena.
Thousands of people had fled, but there were thousands more still panicking inside the arena since many of the doors had been locked. I saw a couple of the Northwest Territories players roundhouse kick a fan together, and their skates chopped his head off like scissors. But I was hyper-focused on tracking the watch thrower. As he made his way through the crowd, a group of drunk Goondor fans attacked me. I've never been in a fight before, but I immediately stepped on one guy's shins before judo throwing him into his 2 friends. And then I pistol whipped them in the back of the neck to disable them.
Damn, all right.
I got jumped a couple more times on the way up to the top of the stadium, but I had to keep up with the watch thrower.
At 7:57, Daniel catches up to him outside the owner's suite. There are 2 men there, each holding Uzis.
I put 2 in the head of the one closest to the door. The second guy went for his gun, but I was able to grab his arm and I snapped his wrist, used his own limp hand to grab his own gun, and then I made him kill himself with it. I was able to get a shot off at the watch thrower, but I could only wing him before he jumped off the railing and disappeared into the crowd.
Whoa, bro, are you, trained?
Nah, man, I was just really fired up. At this point, I knew what was happening. There was a terrorist plot to kill the Secretary of Agriculture, and I had to stop it.
7:58 p.m. The NLCS Game 6 has been abandoned. There are brawls in the infield between the Goondor guys and the Des Moines Lotioneers, and both teams' fans fight in the stands. There are lynch mobs wandering the stadium, and standing in the eye of the storm, badassly, is Hugh Jackman.
Even when there's crowds of people killing each other all around, celebrities still get treated great. So I was able to find the security guards and they were more than happy to protect me. But as I was sipping an old-fashioned one of them made me, the head of security busted in with a corpse on his shoulder. It was one of his men. Nobody knew what happened, but then I got a gander at his neck and I knew exactly what happened. 2 puncture marks, perfectly round, a centimeter away from each other. Immediately, I ordered security to lock all the doors in and out of Rosa Park. This Spider-Man wasn't Spider-Man at all. He was Dracula.
"7:59 p.m. A vampire is on the loose in a baseball stadium. A horny mob armed with medieval weaponry is going on a killing spree at a basketball arena. Terrorists have taken over a hockey game. And, just outside the city, in front of a crowd of 75,000, Sunday Night Football is about to start.